My name is Micky ScottBey Jones, and that's ScottBey with a B-E-Y. But my friend Peter Heltzel, who I don't think is here yet, but will be here later today, he says B-A-E. He misspelled it once, and so that's become our joke, is that it's B-A-E. But it really is Bay because it's spelled like Beyonce. And if you should always be yourself, but if you can't be yourself, you should be Beyonce. So that's actually, it doesn't have anything to do with that. It's a Muslim thing. But I'll take the B-A-E spelling as well because I'm a lover of people, of God, of justice, and of the movement. And my personal dream is to co-create more shalom in the world with people like you. Well, before I start, I would like to do some acknowledgments. I would like to acknowledge the Lenape people, who are the original people of this land. My pastor over the internet, Jackie Lewis. Yes. And my ancestors and family that have made this possible. Actually, my dad and stepmother and little brother, Mike, live in Plainfield, New Jersey, not far from here. So I know. So I just want to acknowledge those people. So I actually want to start us off. Those who were at Pub Theology last night, some of them are probably still in bed. I would be if I hadn't said yes to being here at 9 a.m. We learned a little song together. So hopefully those who were there, who are here this morning, will help me out. It's one of my favorite kind of chant songs from the Black Lives Matter movement that I learned in the Nashville area and St. Louis area. I'm not exactly sure where I learned it, one of those spaces. So if you'll stand with me now, the very first part, it's very, very short. Okay, so, but what it gets us doing is moving and touching each other a little bit. So I'm going to sing Revolutionary Love, Love, Love. Revolutionary Love, Love, Love. And actually, we can sing it together. That's all it is. And then I'm going to call out, I love my brothers, and I love my sisters, and I love my siblings. I'm going to say all three of those. And you can repeat them if you like. And you're going to, when I say I love my, you're going to find somebody to hug. So you're going to hug. After each I love, you're going to hug. Okay? So hug a different person each time. All right? And we're going to do that whole thing twice. And then we're going to stop. Because we could do that all day. You guys are hugging folks. I've seen passing of the peace at this church. Like, you could go on forever. All right. Here we go. Revolutionary love, love, love. Revolutionary love, love, love. I love my brothers. Hug, hug. And I love my sisters. And I love my siblings. Revolutionary love, love, love. Revolutionary love, love, love. I love my brothers. And I love my sisters. And I love my siblings. All right, sit down. Take a seat. Yay! Give yourself a hand for some hugging. All right, so this is one of my favorite kind of chant songs because it's a physical, embodied representation of the revolutionary love that we are here to discuss and hopefully create. All this singing and hugging is a lot of different things. It's close and personal. It's transformational. It can transform a bad mood into a good mood. The physical touch actually causes a release of oxytocin and endorphins, those love hormones, those same hormones that help relieve pain and help you feel happiness. And true revolutionary love has the power to transform a physical situation. It is communal and personal. In the context of an action, or in this space right here, it becomes both a communal action and a personal experience. It requires negotiation of space. How do I open my arms? Do I walk across the room or stay where I am? A negotiation of resources, your energy, your words, how much how high your extroversion level is at that moment. A negotiation of power in the various intersections of race, gender, class, age, ability, education, and status. A negotiation of time and relationship. If you come up to two people that you know, who do you hug first? How do you arrange that? If it's two different people, one that's white and one that's black. If you're a white person and you hug the white person first, are you racist? You gotta think how that's gonna be perceived. So there's a negotiation of a lot of things going on. It is political for the individual and the community. In a world where even the movement believes the lie that we constantly have to be building and challenging and working, never slowing to give or receive love, to sing and hug is an act of resistance. Also an act of just joy in a world that would deny us that joy. It is resilience and humanity. Singing and hugging can be a way that we can, even just for a few minutes, put love back into the center of our movements for justice. So as my 15-year-old justice-fighting, loves-to-go-to-protest daughter says, the most important part of the revolution is love. And I happen to think she's right. She's pretty brilliant and beautiful. And at this time in history, this Kairos moment, where there is a rise in fear, despite living in one of the most statistically safe times in history, especially in the West, I think it is those of us who are interested in working from the intersections of faith and justice that must choose love as a core principle, because it is love that has the power to cast out fear. Our desire for personal and social change is motivated by many things: anger, power, moral authority, outrage, personal experience, fear, and justice. Yet it is love that can be a sustainable force in the way that nothing else can. Love is a guiding light. Love is a vehicle for learning. Love is both personally and socially transformative. But what we call love is not automatically revolutionary. So one of my favorite places to look at what it means to really engage in revolutionary love is in the sacred text of my tradition as a Christian, and that's 1 Corinthians 11. And there we get a glimpse into a community of individuals navigating personal change and social change. And it's a big mess. It's a lot like us today in the conversation about race. These people are supposed to be getting together and sharing a meal. The plan is, you bring what you have, I'll bring what I have, whether it's a lot or a little, and we'll share it. The plan is for everyone to either have abundance or lack, but we're gonna do it together. The vision is that they would build a new community together that would be a place of revolution, free from the economic systems that oppress some more than others, from the societal confines of class. So I think it's interesting to note that economic justice flows from a love for one another, and that's a strong thread even when we talk about the early church. But if you are familiar with this passage, you know the reason Paul sends them a letter and is upset with them is because some people are hungry and others are drunk and full. But the point isn't about the food or the eating. Paul's bottom line instruction to them is to wait for one another. It is so completely not about the food that in the next sentence, he tells them, you know what? If you're hungry, just eat at home so you don't ruin this time for everybody else with your hungry attitude. They were getting hangry. He was like, leave that ish home. Wait for one another. Robert Sobukwe, a South African activist, said, on the liberation of the African depends the whole world. We are still waiting on the liberation of the African. In Africa and throughout the world, we are still waiting on the liberation of women. We are waiting on the liberation of trans people. We wait for each other to all be free before we rest. wait for one another. Many times in tribal meetings in indigenous communities in the US and Canada, elders will sit in the back of the room and wait. They sit in the back of the room and wait until it's full, and especially until the young people arrive. Because even though they have the power, so to speak, and they may be the ones that are guiding the meeting, it's important that all the generations are there. The paradox is, by wait, I don't mean not act. I think what this group of Corinthians is being challenged to do is to consider the community around the table incomplete unless everyone has arrived. When we are all at the table, we know who is sick, who is injured, who is mourning, who is celebrating. I see your face and you see mine. It is not right for those with more money, servants, leisure time, and plenty of food to eat and clean substances to drink to fill up when the day workers, servants, and single parents must come an hour or 3 later, and the bag of chips that they could grab from the corner store on the way as their contribution is all that's left to eat. As long as some are still struggling to scrounge up what it takes to live, we have not entered the time of celebration. So we wait for one another as we try to figure out what it means to live revolutionary love. We continue to live in the sacred tension of the now and not yet. Bell Hooks says, we love via the union of feeling and action. Each of us in this room has deep feelings around issues of racial justice. One of love for others, or if we didn't have that love for others, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't spend our time and our money to be here. And 2, a feeling that something must be done. That woke feeling that things are amiss in the world and that we are here for such a time as this. It is likely that some of those feelings have been born out of knowledge. Knowledge that you've acquired about inequity in the world, the facts of mass incarceration, income disparity, and even personal stories of pain, marginalization, and shame. But there is a difference between knowledge of something or someone or even a group of people and relationship, which breeds action and love. Knowing about someone is not love. If someone hits you up on the Tinders, not that I know anything about that, and they had done their research, they're getting to know you, they might know all your data. You're a vegetarian who eats bacon occasionally. That person's probably out there. You were the middle school chess champion. You color code your closet. They've even seen your baby pictures or all your license pictures you've ever had. They know every address you've called home. Okay, this person's starting to sound a little creepy. But they know about you. They might even believe in your talents and your abilities. But do they love you? Maybe, maybe not. Anthropology, social sciences, biology, and other fields are full of those who have studied people of color, who can tell you factual information about people of color or women or other marginalized folks. But that knowledge does not equal a real, vital, dynamic, equitable relationship. People are not data or theories. Now, data and theories may help us understand the larger context and even individual behavior, but they are not what moves us out of feelings into action. And there are many types of relationships. People of color and white folks are already in a relationship. We have been in this country for hundreds of years. So I'm not saying making a black friend is revolutionary love. And many of us, our cards are full, so we're not taking new applicants. It's fine. Y'all, it's so hard on Facebook. I'm like, I can't take another one this month. Revolutionary relationships require equity, vulnerability, submission of the privileged to the marginalized, lots of translation and patience, space, respect, shifts of priority, and orientation around shalom as the goal. It was deep relationship with the white folks at the Highlander Center that gave Rosa Parks the ability to love white folks, despite having lived with the deep pain, anger, and anguish of living in the brutal, oppressive Jim Crow South. Actually, what she said is that it helped her not to hate white people, but it helped her to eventually have those relationships that became love. She most certainly knew white people and knew a lot about white people, but she did not have the relationships that opened her heart to deep relationship with them before her time at Highlander. This was actually a key organizing principle in the 1960s civil rights movement. And especially white folks going and living and getting in deep relationship, like living with a black family. And actually also dating interracially was kind of a strategy, strangely enough. Alice Walker talks about it. But the point is that it was about deep relationship. The relationships that Bonhoeffer had with black people in Harlem churches literally opened his eyes and changed his trajectory of being a tool of the state-killing machine of Nazi Germany to a friend of a marginalized who was then too dangerous to live. Now, I grew up in majority white spaces. I grew up loving white people. I was judged by, rejected by, and humiliated by black folks. And I remember my stepfather actually saying to me, "You're going to grow up and all your white friends are going to leave you. And you need to be friends with more black people." Which I, of course, totally rejected at the time because it wasn't my experience up until then. I had experienced a lot of pain at the hands of my black peers. I was the funny, safe, well-mannered, well-cultured black girl, and white people loved me. I eventually realized that I needed to learn to love myself and black people. So I joke that I've only been black for like 5 or 6 years. Because I kind of didn't know anything about being black before that. But I knew that loving black people and loving myself even would only come through relationships with black folks. So I quite literally prayed for, searched out, kept finding, making mistakes, but kept looking for black folks. I had to nurture those relationships. I had to be awkward and try like a little kid. "Will you be my friend?" Like over and over and over. So often white folks will be like, "But I don't know any black people and I don't know how to be friends with them." And I like all this anxiety and worry and what if they do it wrong and la la la. You have to risk. I had to risk. Those relationships have been a part of my own internal healing. They've helped me love black people who weren't like me in class and education, which then made me love all black people, which has spurred me to action, which has increased my love. It has become a giant circle of revolutionary love. Relationship provides opportunity for empathy, and empathy dissipates fear and makes more room for love. So I have to pivot here and say it's difficult to have the type of deep relational, actionable love for other people without at least an acknowledgement of the need to love our own selves. For many of us, that is the deepest struggle. None of us can love another from a place of self-loathing. Now, I've seen this over and over with white folks. Caring about racial justice includes a real struggle with self-hatred. You may start there, but you cannot stay there if you wish to create real revolutionary love and true justice in our culture. People of color, and I know specifically black folk, we have been force-fed a legacy of self-hatred, of repressed love, and measured attachment. My Grammy, my mother's mother, was pretty much bound and determined to make sure that I was ready for the world. And like a good black grandmother, that meant making sure that I was tough. So she was pretty cruel. When I have many stories, but she rarely showed empathy or sympathy for me as a child. Her tongue was lethal. One time when at Christmas a cousin came over, we had opened our gifts, and this cousin ended up stealing some money that I got for Christmas because I just was like, look what I got for Christmas, and here it is in this envelope. And when they left, the money was gone. And the only thing she said to me was, well, you shouldn't have showed it to him. Right? It was her job to make me tough. We didn't have the luxury of love. When I told her I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, she said, well, I had to work. It has been dangerous to love ourselves and each other, but we can no longer afford to live there if we want true healing and beloved community. So revolutionary love includes loving yourself. This is where Bell Hook's definition of love comes in handy. She talks about this idea of love as the will to extend oneself to nurture one's own or another's spiritual growth. The will to extend oneself to nurture one's own or another's spiritual growth. I would just amend that slightly and say, and. We must all do our own individual healing work of revolutionary love toward the self in order to love others, because we only exist in community with one another. I want to finish with this. I'm just going to get super real right now. In the Facebook group that Jim started for us to connect before the conference, there was this reoccurring theme among white participants. How do I motivate, encourage, explain, sustain white people in white congregations? Good white folks that fit the ally profile. It takes a reality check. It takes deep, daily inner healing work. This is pretty hard. Damn near impossible for most of us, I think. And I don't say that to dissuade you. I say it to be real about how much work it will take. It will take your whole life. We have all been morally and physically wounded by white supremacy. Not all to the same degree and in the same way, but it is toxic to us all. Audre Lorde said, the true focus of revolutionary change is never merely the oppressive situations that we seek to escape, but that piece of the oppressor which is planted deep within each of us. Many of us in this room would identify as progressive or liberal, open and affirming of all, focused on the belovedness of every human being. And we do a pretty good job on programs, on showing up for die-ins, petitions, and getting legislation passed. What we need to be brutally honest about is the poverty of our friendships. It is our relationships that are the sandpaper that will change us. I mean cross-class, cross-race, cross-gender, cross-religion relationships. You must sit under the leadership that is different from you. You must read books by and be mentored by those who are different from you. Realizing that most marginalized folks don't have that as an option. So if you're not, it's because you're benefiting from white supremacy. You must realize that you are not the teachers, even when you come into a situation more educated with more resources. You must dismantle your isolation, because isolation always brings death. Relationship, relating things together, brings life. There must be a dismantling of internalized and interpersonal racism and other systems of oppression, digging up the root of the oppressor planted deep within each of us is the hardest work of revolutionary love. Not doing that deeply painful, time-consuming, deeply relational daily work is what contributes to toxic movement spaces, destroys relationships, and creates abusive situations that prevent revolutionary love from fully blossoming. We cannot completely lay the blame at the feet of conservatives or of those who aren't dedicated to our revolutionary love ideals, those we label racist or homophobic or hateful. We also must deal with our own weak commitment to revolutionary love with ourselves and others if we want to live it out. It will take nothing short of falling in love. And as Father Pedro Arrupe says, fall in love. It will decide everything. Thank you.